Attention Niners fans and watch aficionados. Elevate your game with the Breitling Chronomat San Francisco 49ers Team Edition, now at Topper Jewelers. Celebrate the NFL's 104th anniversary with a Swiss-made timepiece that blends sophistication with sporting capability. Introducing the Breitling Chronomat, crafted in honor of the San Francisco 49ers. This 42mm marvel features a striking crimson and white dial that's finished with the iconic red and gold 49ers logo placed prominently at 9 o'clock. Limited to just 104 pieces, this special watch showcases your team spirit with distinctive colors and logos. Powered by Breitling's in-house B01 chronograph movement, it combines precision with a bold design. And with a 70-hour power reserve, 200 meters of water resistance, and a sapphire crystal, it's built for both action and elegance. Catch this exclusive piece at Topper Jewelers, where tradition meets the thrill of the game. But you'll want to hustle, because once these 104 pieces are gone, they're gone forever. Discover this 49ers edition, as well as other iconic Breitling watches, like the legendary Navitimer and Mighty Super Ocean, now at Topper Jewelers. And while supplies last, mention this ad to receive a special gift with your next Breitling order.
Where'd you get those shoes? Easy. They're from DSW. Because DSW has the exact right shoes for whatever you're into right now. You know, like the sneakers that make office hours feel like happy hour, or the boots that turn grocery aisles into runways. Basically, DSW has all the styles that show off the many sides of you, from daydreamer to multitasker and everything in between. Because you do it all, in really great shoes, of course. And your style can't be defined by just one pair. Lucky for you, DSW has tons of options, so you can turn any mood into a whole look. Find the latest shoes and must-own trends for everything you do, from the brands you love, like Nike, UGG, Birkenstock, Adidas, Steve Madden, and more. Oh, and they just so happen to be the perfect price. Find a shoe for every you at your DSW store and always at DSW.com.
It's time. Time to get in the zone. Time to get in the zone with the 49ers Web Zone. This is the No Huddle Podcast with Al and Brian.
What's up, faithful? You're listening to another episode of the 49ers Web Zone, No Huddle Podcast, a part of the Odyssey Network. I'm Brian Renick. He's Al Sacco. The 49ers snatched defeat from the jaws of victory yet again with a 10-point lead in the fourth quarter. Cannot shut out or shut down their division rival Arizona Cardinals. They lose the game 24-23. Al, I'm wearing my Trash Pandas hat because my Trash Panda squad knows how to take the field and blow a team out that doesn't belong on the same field as them. This 49ers team does not. And so until they do, I'm repping the squad that is absolutely just laying it down right now. I said, we were talking right before we came on. I said it's probably going to be a bit of a ranty episode. And you said, I don't know, I'm a little bit more matter of fact about it. How are you feeling after another disappointing loss from a team that just looks like they are disinterested in playing winning football?
Well, I mean, it's two inexcusable losses to division rivals within 2 weeks. Inexcusable. Both games they had won. Both games they just looked sloppy and not like themselves in a game plan on offense that appears to be almost hero ballish. I don't really understand even what the thought process is there, but I am very matter of fact about it because, to be honest with you, I've been saying it for a while. I think they have some problems this year. Yep. And we're starting to see those problems. Do they have injuries? Absolutely, they have injuries. You're doing the best player in the league, arguably, on offense. That's going to hurt, of course, without having Christian McCaffrey there. You have a lot of injuries on the defensive line. You don't have Javon Hargrave. You've got hit with injuries here. You don't have Dre Greenlaw out there. He makes a huge difference. But having said that, there's still a lot of talent on this team. In a game like this, that they could have won by 30 points, I felt like they're just that. I feel like they're that much better than the Cardinals. But when you look at the way this game went, they were lucky to really even have the lead because it was two kind of fluky things: a block kick and the Bosa interception, which are two plays that obviously they happened. You got to give them credit, but in a straight game, the Niners didn't look like the 49ers to me, and they haven't at all this season. And I talked last week about the Patriots game was a fugazi. It was fake. You can't take anything you saw last week and think that that's what's going on with this team. They have problems right now, but I'm very matter of fact that, like, I'm not pissed because I kind of feel like this is what they are. they're a playoff-ish team. They're like a 10-win team. And lucky for them, it probably won't take more than 9 or 10 wins to win the NFC West. But they're just not a very good team right now. And until they show us otherwise, I don't know how anybody can look at the 49ers and expect anything other than like, we don't know what we're walking into week to week. And we'll break down what we think, sort of the issues are. But I just kind of feel like, I don't know. I'm a it is what it is guy. And right now it is what it is. The Niners just aren't very good.
No, they're not very good. And, one of the things that we talked about was that the offense is going to have to carry this team because this 49ers defense is not going to be good enough based on what we've come to expect as 49er fans over the past 5-6 seasons, really since 2019, when, that defense really came into its own. And here's the thing, though. They've got the talent. Even with CMC gone, you still have Deebo Samuel. You still have Brandon Ayuk. You still have Juwan Jennings. You still have Trent Williams. You still have George Kittle. You still have Brock Purdy. And you still have Jordan Mason, who up until this point led the league in rushing attempts and has been, at least on the ground, a pretty decent backup, if you will, a replacement for Christian McCaffrey.
And there were times in this game I thought they just forgot about him.
And here's what I don't understand. Okay, this Cardinals team just lost to the Washington Commanders 42-14. 42-14. In that game, the Washington Commanders against the Arizona Cardinals rushed for 216 yards. And the 49ers came out today with a game plan in which Brock Purdy dropped back and attempted a pass. How many pass attempts did he have? I'm
35 passes.
Right now.
35 pass
35
attempts.
Pass attempts.
And Mason had 14 carries.
And Mason had 4. Like, what are we doing? Like, I just don't understand. I cannot make sense of Kyle Shanahan, the offense that he's putting on the field, the play calling, like just none of it makes sense to me. And again, I'm Joe Schmo who can get on a podcast and a microphone and I can talk about the team. And I understand that Kyle has forgotten more knowledge about football than I will ever attain in my life. But what is happening? What is, I just don't understand what this offense is. I mean, DNA.
What's
is. Like what are we supposed to expect out of this offense?
What is the identity? Are they a drop back passing team now? Is that what they're trying to do? And
Why?
I love that Purdy pushes the ball downfield. I love that he does it. I love that he looks to make the big play, but you also have to play within the offense. And I'm not blaming Purdy. I don't know who's to blame right now. When they started running, he did. I thought, what's funny? I thought when it started, he was in complete control. It was another one similar to the Rams game where in the beginning of the game, I just said, wow, look at this guy. He just looks like he's in control of everything. He's making plays with his legs. He's making big passes downfield. They're going to win this game 30-13. And then everything went off the rails because, again, I felt like it just went into backyard hero ball on offense. So I don't know when he drops back if people aren't open. I don't know if he's not seeing it. I don't know what's going on. But he's running around, and he's fun as hell to watch. But that's not really the 49ers offense. It's good to mix that stuff in, and you want to take the deep shots. But I want them to pound the ball. I want them to run play action. Those short passes to Deebo that people made fun of with Jimmy Garoppolo, all he does is throw it to Deebo, 2 yards to Deebo. Well, that's a big part of their offense. I don't care who's at quarterback. That should still be a part of their offense. Deebo Samuel had 3 targets and 1 catch in the passing game. That's it. He was invisible, it seemed like. I'm not sure what the game plan is. I don't know if they're trying to evolve. I don't know if they're trying to be something they're not, but the Niners have to go back to who they are on offense. Pound the football, use play action. And listen, if you're worried about Mason with too many carries and you don't want to give Garendo carries or whatever, go sign another running back or something. Like, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? You're just not going to run the ball in a close game like this to have 35 pass attempts and they had from running backs 19 carries, and if you include Debo, 22 carries. Not the Niners' identity. It's not, and they don't look like the 49ers out there to me.
And like I said, against a team that just gave up 260 yards to the Washington Commanders, who are a decent running football team, but they're not, they're not, at least typically, the level of the 49ers when it comes to running the ball. And like you said, I don't know why the offenses look the way that it is. I think that's a good point. Maybe they're trying to evolve. I don't know. I don't know if Kyle Shanahan is just trying to prove that Brock Purdy is, one of the better quarterbacks in the NFL. And so he's just drawing up game plans where he's going to throw the ball and he's going to, we did talk about, does this offense start to evolve to look more like the 2017 Atlanta Falcons, that record-setting offense with Matt Ryan. It certainly feels that way.
But they didn't throw the ball a lot. They threw the ball more downfield, but they were, I think they were 28th. I'd have to look, but they were in the bottom, near the bottom of the league in attempts that year, the Falcons. The Kyle Shanahan offense runs the ball a shit ton, does not throw a lot, but they're very efficient in the passing game. 8.5 yards per attempt, whatever it would be, because they're getting yards after the catch. They're getting big throws downfield, but the identity of that offense is the running game. And I didn't feel that at all. There were times where I'm like, run the ball, dude. What are you doing? Why are you not handing the ball off?
The Cardinals look like a team who was committed to running the ball more than the 49ers were.
And it paid off at the end of the game because Connor did not have a good first half, and they kept going to him and they kept running and they wore the Niners down. And Connor had a huge second half, and it was a huge reason why the Cardinals won the game.
Yeah. And, it certainly, the Cardinals defense shut the 49ers out in the second half. They gave up 0 points in the second half. This again is a bad defense. It is a bad defense. And I understand that this team could have put points up if Jake Moody didn't get hurt on, a kick return. Again, special teams, awesome field goal block by Isaac Yadam, picked up by Diamador Lenore, runs it back, right? Splash plays are great. What is our biggest concern? Coverage. What happens on literally the next play? The coverage sucks so bad that Jake Moody has to make a tackle. What are we like? What does Brian Schneider do here? What is his job? Because it's not coordinating the special teams, because the special team sucks. What is your job? And why can't you score in the red zone? Is it literally is the reason because CMC is gone? Because this team was 6 for 6 in red zone opportunities against the Cardinals last year with Christian McCaffrey. And today they were 1 for 6 or 1 for 7. I can't remember what. I think it was 1 for 6.
Well, some of the play calling in the red zone, I don't understand.
Sucks.
Again, you're not trying to. Jordan Mason is a beast. Pound the football. I don't understand it. I don't at all. Kyle Shanahan said after the game, they asked him about the red zone offense. He said, not very good. We were in the middle of the pack before the game, and we got a lot worse today. Yeah, that's putting it lightly. And Jake Moody has a high ankle sprain. He's in a walking boot, according to our buddy Jake Hutchinson, and they're going to have to go out and sign another kicker. And people will point to the kicker in this game and say, well, they didn't have a kicker. They could have had more points. If you watch this game, there were throw the kicker thing out the window to me, because there were a million other reasons they lost this game.
Yeah,
a million other reasons.
You can't score in the red zone. You got to the red zone 6 times, and you got 1 touchdown. 1.
Yeah.
Come on. That's
pathetic. Who they are. That's who
pathetic.
They are right now, Brian. And we've seen these slow starts before. So I've told myself in the past, all right, Al, the Niners have been 3-4 and 4-4, and they've still made these long playoff runs. So don't go crazy. The difference with it for me this year, I don't think they're as good as those teams. I don't think they're nearly as good defensively as those teams.
No.
They're older now. They're beat up. You don't have guys like an Eric Armstead, a playoff tested guy like an Eric Armstead in the center of that defense. This is a different team. It is a team that's sort of moving, getting glimpses of that next window. And that next window is a little bit scary right now, the way that things have looked. They have a lot of studs on this team. and they've paid a lot of money for them. And it's, when you have all these blue chip guys, of course they're going to cost a lot, but the depth isn't there in other places. You're seeing it linebacker right now where Campbell has been atrocious.
Yes.
You don't have the El Shairs anymore that can step in and say, all right, Greenlaw's not there. Well, El Shai can come in and make plays and do a really good job. He's not there. Charvarius Ward is not having a good season whatsoever. I mean, he's making it, if there's a decision between him and Demo, he's making it pretty easy that Lenore would be the long-term guy for them. Jair Brown is working through it. Hufanga hasn't been able to stay healthy and been on the field, so you've had Mustafa in there who's a rookie, and the defensive line, again, it's just not good enough. It's not the vaunted defensive line that you're used to with the 49ers. And this is just the tip of the iceberg unless they can right the ship, because this is supposed to be the easy part of the schedule.
When you think about businesses that are selling through the roof like Aloe, Allbirds, or Skims, sure, you think about a great product, a cool brand, and brilliant marketing. But an often overlooked secret is actually the businesses behind the business, making selling and for shoppers buying simple. For millions of businesses, that business is Shopify. Nobody does selling better than Shopify, home of the #1 checkout on the planet and the not-so-secret secret with Shop Pay that boosts conversions up to 50%, meaning way less carts going abandoned and way more sales going. So if you're into growing your business, your commerce platform better be ready to sell whenever your customers are scrolling or strolling on the web, in your store, in their feed, and everywhere in between. Upgrade your business and get the same checkout experience as business powerhouses like Aloe, Allbirds, and Skims. Sign up for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/Odyssey Podcast, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/Odyssey Podcast to upgrade your selling today. Shopify.com/Odyssey Podcast. When you think about businesses that are selling through the roof like Aloe, Allbirds, or Skims, sure, you think about a great product, a cool brand, and brilliant marketing. But an often overlooked secret is actually the businesses behind the business, making selling and for shoppers buying simple. For millions of businesses, that business is Shopify. Nobody does selling better than Shopify, home of the #1 checkout on the planet and the not-so-secret secret with Shop Pay that boosts conversions up to 50%, meaning way less carts going abandoned and way more sales going. So if you're into growing your business, your commerce platform better be ready to sell whenever your customers are scrolling or strolling on the web, in your store, in their feed, and everywhere in between. Upgrade your business and get the same checkout experience as business powerhouses like Aloe, Allbirds, and Skims. Sign up for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/Odyssey Podcast, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/Odyssey Podcast to upgrade your selling today. Shopify.com/Odyssey Podcast.
Hey, it's Cheryl Swoops and Jordan Robinson from the Queens of the Court podcast, here to talk about staying connected to what you love.
With AT&T 5G and home internet, you can be a sports superfan your way. You could cheer like crazy in any room of your house or your backyard,
which might startle your neighbors, but they won't judge you.
You could fist pump after watching your team hit a buzzer beater while you're on a train surrounded by strangers.
Who cares how you look? You enjoy that moment.
Or you could let out a triumphant roar when your team makes an incredible trade.
And don't worry if you're out with your coworkers. They know what this trade means to you.
So however you watch, listen, or read about your team,
and no matter how that makes you act,
AT&T 5G and home internet keep you connected at home and on the go.
AT&T, connecting changes everything. AT&T 5G requires a compatible plan and device. Coverage not available everywhere. Learn more at att.com/5G for you.
Here's the frustrating thing about, like, you talked about the safeties, right? And the issue with the safeties. Here's the frustrating part. Justin Simmons was still available up until September 5th. Like, you and at that time, you had plenty of cap space to sign Justin Simmons to a 1-year deal. Like, if I just don't understand going into the season with an unknown in Hufanga coming back from an injury, a second-year player, a rookie, and then a guy who has spent the majority of his career playing only special teams as your 4 safety options, with Justin Simmons hanging out there and going, yeah, I think that's fine. That's good. We can weather that. look, I think Malik Mustafa is going to be amazing. And I think Jair Brown shows flashes of some real promise. But they are young players playing a position that is very, very mentally taxing. And they are going to make mistakes. They're just gonna. That's the reality. And you could have had somebody back there who, you didn't have to worry about that, and you chose not to. So that's frustrating to me. Like I, we've been saying it. This team is not going to be led by its defense. This defense is at best a middle of the road, 18 to 14 rank, somewhere around there, 20 to 15, whatever. But this offense and the amount of money that they've spent on this offense outside of Brock Purdy, you should expect that this offense can carry this team. And they're not. And that's the biggest problem. I'm not blaming the defense. I'm not. I didn't have the same expectations for this defense that I had for the offense. Like, this is Kyle Shanahan has to wear this. Kyle Shanahan has to wear this as the offensive coordinator, as the play caller, as the head coach of a team, knowing that you've got an inexperienced defensive coordinator calling plays and a very different defense than you're used to having in terms of talent, especially on the defensive line. You have got to know that it is your offense that is going to carry this team. And so far, you have done nothing to show me that you and your offense are ready to do that. You're 2-3, and you've lost to the Rams and the Cardinals, who, with the Rams and all their injuries, are one of the worst teams in the NFL. And the Cardinals, with their lack of talent on defense and a relatively promising offense, but still figuring itself out, those are two teams you should not lose to. You cannot lose to those two teams.
They have three combined wins, those two teams. 3 combined wins, and 2 of them against the 49ers. They're not good teams right now.
It's pathetic.
You mentioned the defense, and I understand what you're saying, but what have the 49ers been built on since Lynch and Shanahan started? The defensive line. Right? That was a priority. It has not been a priority lately, and they're suffering for it. When you look at the drafts recently, 2020, they tried to make it a priority there. They whiffed on Javon Kinlaw. 2021, they did not take a defensive lineman. 2022, they whiffed on Drake Jackson in the second round. They got Kalia Davis in the 6th round. I mean, he's a role player. He's not an Eric Armstead type, right? He's not a Nick Bosa type. Obviously, he's not a cornerstone type guy. You drafted Robert Beal, who's, again, just another dude in the 5th round. Now, they didn't have a lot of early picks because of the Trey Lance trade, and that stuff it's come to roost now because they haven't been able to get these guys in. But even the guys that they've tried, again, they've missed Drake Jackson, Javon Kinlaw. So you go out and you sign probably a Javon Hargrave whose best days were behind him because you have to make up for the Kinlaw miss. And now you got to go out and sign a 31-year-old Leonard Floyd because you have to make up for the Drake Jackson miss. So they've missed on the defensive line. They haven't made as much of a priority. And if you can't win in the trenches down there, I mean, you're done, man. Part of the reason that defense was so good in the Super Bowl, again, is you had Bosa and Armstead, and people. I've been talking about Eric Armstead for months now. You just don't replace that dude. I understand that he's been hurt, but you just don't replace a guy like that. It's not easy to do. And the Niners tried to revamp the defensive line. That's what they tried to do this offseason, and they did it with Band-Aids. Right now, some of those Band-Aids are getting ripped off. Gross Matos is hurt. Right? Even Javon Hargrave was kind of a Band-Aid a couple years ago for that signing. It was really only a 2-year deal that you hoped he can come in and make an impact there. But for this team, if they really did want the Super Bowl, the Justin Simmons point is a good one. How many interceptions Justin Simmons has against Patrick Mahomes in his career, Brian?
Probably quite a few if you're bringing it up.
He's got 6. He's got 6. So he's a dude that plays your biggest rival and someone who you haven't been able to get over the hump against. Has taken 2 championships away from you. He's a difference maker against that team. I was very confused that they didn't at least have interest in him. So again, as I try to be very, very matter of fact in this, and I'm going back and forth of being annoyed and being matter of fact, I guess, as I'm talking through this, but they've made a lot of mistakes roster-wise with the defense. This isn't a very good defense. They have a lot of high-priced guys, and they're becoming more of an offensive team. Look, they're paying Kittle a ton of money. They're paying Ayuk a ton of money. They're paying Debo a ton of money. They're paying Williams a ton of money. They're paying McCaffrey a ton of money. Brock's going to get a ton of money. So this is almost going into a team. You've seen it with the Eagles a little bit, where their offense hasn't been good this year, but they have all these big names on offense, and then they try to piece the defense together with draft picks or whatever else, which is kind of where the Niners are headed. Other than Bosa, who's going to remain obviously with a huge contract, and Warner, Bosa and Warner have huge contracts, but other places it's going to be draft picks and low price guys.
Yeah, I mean, this is going to be a defense that's going to have 3 high-priced players on it, and that's going to be Bosa and Warner and probably Deommodore Lenoir when it's all said and done. And then everything else is going to be draft picks, middle of the road, free agent signings, whatever. But like you said, they haven't really set themselves up to be a team that wins with their defensive line, just based on their drafting, because again, like you said, it's all Band-Aids, right? It's all 1-year deals or 2-year deals, but in reality, they're 1-year deals, right? And there's no one in the development pipeline that is going to come in and be a difference maker on the defensive line. I imagine they will probably hit it hard in this upcoming draft because they have to. They absolutely have to, but again, you don't want to be in that position. You don't want to be in the position where you go into a draft needing players at specific positions, because it lends you to reaching and bringing in players and overdrafting players and just not giving yourself the opportunity to just draft the best player available. But not only that, but you also have to go into this draft probably looking for your left tackle of the future, and maybe a right tackle, and maybe a left guard, and like your offensive line is going to be an issue probably in a year, and
maybe a tight end. And Kittle's getting older. You got to eventually get somebody to develop.
This team gets a lot of credit, and rightfully so, for being good at drafting, especially later in the rounds. And the team that we've seen make it to 4 of the last 5 NFC championship games, largely on the back of that drafting. The majority of the players that have been blue chip players for the 49ers have been guys that they have brought in via the draft. Yeah. Really the only player that isn't, that is just a cornerstone is Trent Williams. And that was still a shrewd move on their part to make that trade. And CMC. They deserve, and CMC, and they deserve credit for that. But we are seeing now that the poor drafting over the last 3 years is really what's going to make the next window a window that we have a lot of uncertainty about.
Well, when you look at the draft, so 2017, you get George Kittle as a blue chip guy. And when I'm talking blue chip, is we're going through this list, I don't mean like, oh, well, he's pretty good. Well, he's a starter. A blue chip, a difference maker, a borderline Hall of Famer or a Hall of Famer. These are top level elite guys. You got George Kittle in 2017. You got Fred Warner in 2018. You got Nick Bosa, Debo Samuel, and Dre Greenlaw in 2019. And then you got Ayuk in 2020. I don't know if I missed anybody, but that's 5. Right? 5 or 6. Did I name 6? 6. Blue chip. Not good. Not, hey, he's a starter. Legit studs.
And only one of them in the first round.
Right. But since then, and you're talking 4 drafts, okay? Since then. Lenoir, maybe. Purdy, probably.
And that's it.
That's it. So as these other guys are getting older, George Kittle's been in the league, 8 years now? He's getting older. Even Fred Warner, these guys are getting older. They're still awesome players, but they're getting older. Now, I know 2024, we don't know, and we won't know for a while. But you look at the positions they drafted. Pearsall's a receiver. Green's a DB. Pooney may be end up being a very good guard. Yeah. But there's no stud defensive line there. There's no stud pass rusher there out of that group. So, how impactful are those guys going to be? We'll see. I think it's a good group, but I don't know if it's going to be a blue chip group. And the 49ers are the 49ers because they have blue chip studs. And if they haven't gotten more to come in, they're not going to be an elite team. Eventually this window is going to close, or they're going to go from a 12 win, 2 or 3 wins in the playoff type team to we're getting 10 and we'll see if we could win in the division round type thing, which feels like it's where they're headed to me. I just don't see it. I see an aging roster with other pieces that aren't as good as the role players they've had in the past. The guys who, your Jordan Willis's and your Menahus and who's going to get a punt block in the playoffs and make these big plays. I don't see it right now. And I think they're in trouble. Again, I'm not saying 7 and 10. They're going to win this division with 9 or 10 wins, but big picture, I think they're in trouble.
Yeah. And I agree. But here's the saving grace is this division is not very good. The Cardinals are not good. The Rams are too beat up that I don't think they're going to be able to climb out of the hole that they're in.
And the Seahawks are very good.
The Seahawks, the first 3 wins, kind of a little fugazi. I'm starting to use that word more because I've heard it from you so much. But a little bit of a mirage, right? They had the easiest schedule in the NFL through the first 3 weeks. They have now lost back-to-back games. Last week against the Lions and then today against the Giants without Malik Neighbors, which is wild to me.
At Alma, we know the connection between you and your therapist matters. But if you're already feeling stressed and burnt out, the idea of trying to find a therapist you really connect with can be overwhelming. That's why Alma's focused on helping you find the right therapist for you. When you browse their online directory, you can filter your search based on the qualities that are most important to you. Then you can book a free 15-minute consultation call with any therapist you're interested in seeing, so you can get a feel for whether they're the right fit before you commit to a full-length session. Alma also makes it easy for mental health care providers to navigate insurance. That's why 95% of therapists in their directory accept insurance for sessions. So you can find care that's affordable without stressing about the paperwork. You want to talk to someone, but not just anyone. Alma is there to help you find the right fit. Visit helloalma.com/therapy60 to schedule a free consultation today. That's helloalma.com/therapy60.
Calling all Atlanta football fans to downtown Las Vegas. Visit Circa Resort and Casino this December for an incredible $500 all-in ultimate game day getaway. Get a 3-night stay at Circa when Atlanta plays Las Vegas. This includes a $200 bar tab, plus a day bed at Stadium Swim. With 6 temperature-controlled pools and a massive 143-foot screen, it's the world's largest hot tub party. All this for just $500. The all-in package is only available till October 31st, so act now. To book, visit circalasvegas.com today.
So here's the reality. The 49ers have this bitter loss in their mouth. It is what it is. They go to Seattle on Thursday. If they win that game, they're in first place in the NFC West. Like, it feels like the sky is falling, and I am guilty of making it feel that way, and because I kind of feel that way. But that is the reality of the NFC West right now. They win against Seattle in Seattle, and they're in first place. But this team that was on the field today against the Cardinals has to take the field in 3 weeks against 2 weeks from today.
2 weeks.
2 weeks from today, they have to take the field against the Chiefs. And while the Chiefs offense hasn't looked great, the Chiefs defense looks phenomenal. The team on the field today is going to get their ass kicked by the Chiefs.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Just an absolute ass kicking. And I don't know if they can pull it together in that time, but that Sunday is the Sunday of our fall ball season ending tournament. And I'm going to be perfectly honest. I'm kind of glad that I'm not
you don't have to watch it
because I have a feeling that, like I said, it's going to be ugly.
Well, again, we've seen this before with this team, so they do have the ability to get it together, but this was the easy part of their schedule. They had a Jets team that isn't very good, and they won. A Vikings team that is very good, they lose. They blow a game against a beat-up Rams team that's 1-4. They beat a New England team that isn't even an NFL team, so again, whatever, but a win's a win. And then they blow another game to a Cardinals team that, again, one of their 2 wins, is against the Niners. I don't quite know what the Cardinals are, but I don't think they're very good. So now you have to go to Seattle on a Thursday, not an easy place to play. And their head coach's defense has given you fits. I know they're super beat up and they haven't looked good at all on defense, but it has given you fits. It's not going to be an easy game. Then you have home games against the Chiefs and the Cowboys. Again, 2 difficult games, and the Cowboys are going to be up for that game. You have your bye week. Tampa Bay is a good team. You have another division game against Seattle. And then listen to this stretch. You're at Green Bay. You're at Buffalo. You're home to the Bears. Then you have to play the Rams at home. Miami, which is a train wreck. And then you got to play Detroit before you finish the season against the Cardinals. This iteration of the 49ers is going to have some issues with that. So they got to get it together, man. And what we've been waiting about, it's tough to say when you look at the stats that are they really missing McCaffrey? Because Jordan Mason is whatever, second in the NFL in rushing or whatever he is. Well, when you look at the flow of the game in third downs, in the easy check downs, and just the things that CMC does, they are missing him a lot. And it gets evident in games like this because they just needed somebody to make a play, just to calm everything down, just to catch a little 6-yard pass and take it 24 yards. They didn't have that. McCaffrey's a difference maker. McCaffrey's one of the best players in the league. You're starting to really, I think we noticed it before. Now we're starting to really see this offense is good, but they really need him to get to the next gear.
Well, and I think where we've seen the absence of CMC the most is in third down conversions and in red zone, right? He's such a weapon in the red zone. And I genuinely think they're missing that. But again, they haven't done a lot to even try and see if Jordan Mason can, give you a little bit of what CMC does. That's what I think is so frustrating to me is it's like Kyle's threw his hands up. He's like, all right, we don't have CMC. Well, then we can't feature the running back in our passing game at all. Right. And yet every time that they go to Mason, he makes the catch and he gets positive yardage. They did it again today. They had a play action fake and Mason came out on a choice route. He hit him and he got 9 yards. But if I'm not mistaken, that's the only target that Mason got in the passing game all day. And again, it's just I understand how good Christian McCaffrey is, but if you designed your offense around Christian McCaffrey and then lost him, you still have to play. You still have to, give your other guys an opportunity because right now it's just not working. Whatever it is that you're trying to do isn't working. It's just not. And I will be interested to see if, there is some adaptations, right? Some changes. I don't even know what those would be, but certainly 35 passing plays to 26 rushing plays is not what you expect from Kyle Shanahan. And maybe, I don't know, maybe it was just him protecting his players and going, it's 100 degrees, in Santa Clara. I'm sure it was hotter on the field. I don't want to put my players at risk in the run game. I don't know. I have no idea. And no one will ask him that question. And if anybody does, he won't answer it. So
no,
we're just going to be up to, conjecture or whatever. But it just certainly seems like he's either outsmarting himself or just, I don't know. Like I said, this team just feels like they're going through the motions. It's like this team expects to be in the Super Bowl this year just because they're the 49ers and they're playing down to their competition. And it's irritating. And it's a sign of an undisciplined team.
It's a sign of okay, well, let me say this first. Purdy dropped back 39 times and there were 22 carries. So they only handed the ball off 22 times and dropped back almost 40 in a 1-score game. What is maddening to me is when you think back before McCaffrey got to the 49ers. Now, Purdy is a better quarterback than Garoppolo. I don't even think it's close. But the 49ers had similar issues on offense with Garoppolo before CMC in terms of scoring, in that you had all these playmakers everywhere, Kittle and Debo and Ayuk. And you had good running backs, and they couldn't score more than 23 points a game. until CMC got there, and then Purdy got in, and with the two of them, everything kind of exploded. But now I feel like you're reverting back to some of those issues that we saw before in terms of that they just can't finish. The red zone issues are back, because Kyle used to have issues in the red zone a couple of years ago. This team was never really good in the red zone up until a year or two ago with Purdy and CMC again. You're starting to see these issues come back. Can't score in the red zone. Can't really get more than 23 points. Look at the last few games here. Again, the New England game, whatever. They scored 17, 24, and the offense only scored 16 today. So they're not really scoring either, which is really frustrating. And even against the Jets, when they scored 32, would they kick 6 field goals or whatever it was?
Yeah, 6.
They couldn't finish there either. So it is really frustrating. It's eventually this team I think they will figure it out, and I think that they're going to get better. But right now they have to look in the mirror. And there's a part of me that said, do they just think they're going to go back to the Super Bowl? It's part of me that they almost look shell-shocked at times. Like they're just beat up and they're older. And we've seen this time and time again where the team that loses the Super Bowl kind of comes the next season and just like, shit's not right. Shit's just off. And this has Bill Simmons calls it the year from hell vibe. And the Niners have a lot of year from hell stuff going on. I mean, your freaking kicker has a high ankle sprain. You know what I mean? When you have so many injuries and your kicker gets hurt, like when does it end? When does it end, man, with that stuff? It's almost comical at this point.
And despite, Moody getting injured, which obviously is a big deal, Moody attempted, I heard Greg Papa say this. I had to listen to the part of the game on my way home, right before I was able to watch it. But I was listening to the radio broadcast, and Greg Papa made an excellent point. Jake Moody I believe he made 21 field goals all of last season. And after today, he's already made 13. Wow. So he's only 8 more made field goals away from his entire total for the 2023 season. And we are in week 5. So again, what does that tell you? Exactly what you just said. This offense can't finish, right? This offense needs to go to hims.com and get some shit figured out, because they need to figure out how to finish, because it is back to, I coined this term on the No Huddle podcast. We're starting to see remnants of the Blue Balls offense, and it's not fun, and it is not winning football, and it is not what you expect from an offense with the level of talent that this offense has. It's just unacceptable.
Kyle's offense prior to Brock Purdy, okay, other than the 2016 season with the Falcons and the 2019 season with the 49ers, they typically get a lot of yards and don't score a lot of points. That's been traditional of Kyle Shanahan's offense. And I'll look back on Pro Football Reference. I've put out stats a million times on Twitter, but I'll look back in the next show. I'll talk about what they exactly are, but they typically gain a lot of yards and they struggle in the red zone. They don't score as many points as you would expect them to, but the Purdy CMC combination that's exploded. It's like they get 30 points a game. It seems like every game with those two, but hasn't been the case. And when you look back to even going back to the playoffs, I understand they won some playoff games, but they haven't looked good. Niners haven't really looked good in a while. Mm-hmm. Think about it, Brian. Go back to last season. When was the last time the Niners looked like, oh man, this team's a buzzsaw? Probably before Christmas of last year.
Yeah, because I was gonna say they got their shit rocked by the Ravens and were never the same after that. They were never the same after that.
They really weren't. They won 2 playoff games that they really pulled out of their ass. I mean, they did it and they came back and they deserve all the credit in the world for making big plays. But it was very ugly at times. The Chiefs, they couldn't do anything offensively against the Chiefs. Chiefs beat them. The Chiefs always beat them. But you go back to last year, they haven't looked like a buzzsaw, like a really elite team in quite a long time. We're talking maybe 10, 11 games now, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's where we are. So maybe we have to I'll take a step back. Maybe we need to look in the mirror as fans and say, okay, is this team really still an elite team? I don't know that they are anymore. So there's a lot of soul searching to do, I think, in that locker room, and they have vets. They will, they'll figure this out. And this is still a playoff team to me. If I get on the show and say this is not a playoff team, we've lost all hope, but still a playoff team to me. But is it a Super Bowl contender the way it is right now? Absolutely not. And Kyle Shanahan too. I don't want him fired, not saying anything like that, but he hasn't had a good season. He hasn't. Players have up and down years. Coaches do too. Kyle has not had a good season this year. So he's got to turn it around. The Niners have to turn it around. Their defensive coaching staff has to turn it around. You brought in this guy. You brought in your guy in Nick Sorensen, and Brandon Staley's here doing whatever the hell he's doing behind the scenes.
No one knows.
No one knows, but it hasn't looked good yet. You've gotten out coached in a number of games. It's the coaching staff has to take a look in the mirror too. It's just, everybody's got to look in the mirror and just say, who are we and how can we get better from here?
Well, and that's the other thing is like, okay, you bring in Brandon Staley. Fine. You elevate Nick Sorensen. Again, a play caller with no experience. You did that with D'Amico. There was success. I understand the thought process, but it certainly feels like there wasn't a ton of effort on their part to bring in some new blood on the defensive side of the ball, right? I guess Brandon Staley is that, but again, I mean, you could have poached somebody from the defensive staff that kicks your ass every time you play them.
I mean, they tried for the big fish, right? They tried for Spags and they tried for Belichick.
Sure. I mean, but my point is, like, you still could have brought in someone from Spags' staff, right? To breathe new life into this defense, to bring some new ideas. Granted, whoever you brought over would have as much play calling experience as Nick Sorensen.
Right.
But at least it's new blood. You know, this, I saw somebody tweet this out just a little bit ago, and I can't remember who. Otherwise, I would give credit. But I think they made a great point, and I think this is a little bit of what goes into a decision like elevating Nick Sorensen, right? But it feels like the 49ers go into every game thinking that they're the best team in the NFL, and that because of that, they're just going to win every game that they step on the field. And they've been getting embarrassed because of that mentality. And maybe they don't have that mentality. Maybe that's just, it feels like it. But again, it certainly feels like this team reads its own press clippings and then just goes, oh, like, well, we're going to steamroll this Cardinals team, right? We're way better than them. And you are better than them. But sports 101, the NFL is any given Sunday, but even just sports in general. If you go into any game with the mentality that we are already better than this team, and so we're going to win this game, you're probably going to get your ass kicked because you go in lackadaisical, you go in just unprepared to put your best foot forward. And that's what it feels like we've seen from this team outside of week 1 on Monday night, when it felt like the lights were bright and they're like, we're going to show the world the 49ers are still here. And they did. And then it's been nothing but a shit show since then.
Well, maybe the short week, they won't have time to think about anything. You're just basically going back out and playing. Maybe that'll be good for them, but they have to get back to being the Niners, especially on offense. You know, Purdy, I think, has had a really good season overall. I think he's played some really good games. I don't think today was his best game. But he's at, I think now after today, he had 5 touchdown passes. I think he's at 6 touchdown passes and 4 interceptions through 5 games. Like that's not great for a guy who threw 31 TDs and had, well, whatever it was, 12 picks last year or whatever it was. So again, I like that he pushes the ball downfield, but today, both of his interceptions were once he was hit and once it was tipped. So it wasn't like he was just throwing to linebackers or anything like that. But I feel like they have to get back to their identity again, run the ball, high efficiency passing, take your shots where you can. The off schedule plays, Purdy's very good at that when they happen. I just feel like there's too many off schedule players now where he's running around and trying to make something happen. That means things aren't right within the offense. If he has to do off schedule plays, it means the play didn't work or the line.
Well, not only that, but
down or something.
Again, this offensive line is not built to be a drop back passing offensive line. They are not a good pass blocking offensive line. They need to run the ball. They need the threat of the run. They need the disguise of the run. That's why play action works. Like, get back to what you know is good. You draft offensive linemen specifically for this scheme. You know that they aren't good drop back passing protectors, right? So why drop back 39 times? You're just giving the other team an opportunity to exploit your biggest weakness on offense, which is your offensive line. That's another thing that's frustrating. And that's why a lot of those off-schedule plays happen, because he gets to the top of his drop and his right tackle is already beat. And there's already pressure at the top of his drop. So now he has to improvise and whatever. It's because the offensive line sucks at pass blocking. And they have for a long time. There's one guy that's good at it. It's Trent Williams. That's not enough. There's 5 guys on the line. So that's the other thing that's frustrating is you didn't build this offensive line to be a drop back passing offense.
Right.
So stop trying to be that. Be who you are. Lean into your identity. Run the ball, use play action, get back to what we know works for this offense.
Yeah.
It just doesn't make sense.
Do a couple dump offs to Debo, man. Just get him in space, right? When things aren't going well, 2nd and 9. Here you go, Debo. Here's the ball.
Stop trying to prove Brock Purdy's critics wrong. You know what I mean?
I hope that's not what he's doing. I really hope that's not what he's doing.
And I genuinely don't think it is, but it sure feels that way, right? Because all of that stuff has just, for whatever reason, just disappeared from the offense, right?
You know what it feels like? When you play Madden and you just I don't know, it's 3rd and 27 and you're like, I'm just going to do 4 go routes and I'm just going to throw the ball downfield. I don't care. I'm just going to, that's almost what it feels like his play calling. I'm just going to chuck it up and see what happens. I'm going to throw this 25 yards downfield. It's not them. It's really weird. Maybe we talked in the offseason about Brandon Staley being like worm and rounders and just completely ruining Kyle Shanahan.
Man.
maybe he's in his ear, man.
Damn it, Al. That's a good point. Damn it.
You don't need to run, man.
Damn it.
You don't need to play it safe. Just throw. It's bad news. Brandon Worm.
You might be right.
I don't know, Brian.
Hard to beat the allegations at this point.
We got a quick turnaround, bro. So we'll see. But listen, for anybody listening to this, I hope it was a good therapy pod for you. It'll get better. Your friend Al saying it'll get better.
And if Al's saying it's going to get better, I feel like you could take that to the bank, because New York Al isn't always optimistic. So,
I don't know. It's going to be really good, but it's going to get better.
It's still optimism today. That's still optimism.
It is. We've seen. I just keep telling myself we have to talk about in the moment. We have to react to what happened. But we've seen this team do this a number of times.
Sure.
I don't think they're as good as those teams, but they're still good enough to turn it around and get to the playoffs, in my estimation.
Yeah.
So.
And
all right,
it starts with a victory over the Seattle Seahawks on Thursday Night Football, and we will be back to preview that game later this week. But for Al, I'm Brian. Later.
Let us on 3. 1, 2, 3. Hey!
2400 Sports is an Odyssey company.
Hey, it's Tiki Barber. Getting ready for game day looks a lot different for me now, but the one thing I look forward to most these days are my snacks. My favorite is buffalo chicken dip, and the best way to make it is with some Hellmann's Real Mayonnaise. Hellmann's Mayonnaise is the secret to bring out the rich and creamy taste in all of your game day dishes. So, give it a try, and may your game day be delicious with Hellmann's Real Mayonnaise. Shop at your local Walmart, Kroger, or grocery store and add some extra deliciousness to your game day dishes this football season.